So, I want to take this video to explain the situation in the Middle East and also the markets and how it's affected. So, today we actually went back up both in crypto and the stock market. That was hoping that the tensions would relieve between Israel and Iran. But we're getting mixed signals right now. Iran said they will strike Israel, basically missile for missile, whatever like Israel strikes it, and attacks have actually escalated. At the same time, there have been rumors that they don't want a bigger war against Israel. Now, those two are very contradictory to each other. Benjamin Netanyahu says there might be a regime change in Iran, or he's hoping for one. But I'm not really sure if that's going to benefit them. We know that regime changes usually don't end up too well. And of course, the United States is involved in this. You know, we were the ones that put Saddam in power, and then we had to remove him like 20, 30 years later. And then, like, you know, the regime changes to the guy that you actually want, a lot of times they get overthrown, kind of like what happened in Iran last time. So I'm not really sure about this regime change. Obviously, they want to kill the ability of Iran to make nuclear weapons, but I don't think you're really going to kill the ability anytime soon. They're going to continue trying. You can continue to try to hinder them, but you know there's going to be retaliatory strikes like the one we're seeing right now. What I really don't like is Trump actually left the G7 early, and he left the G7 early to convene an emergency meeting of the National Security Council. And there are rumors on Twitter that like the U.S. is already prepping to get involved, and they're jointly striking Iranian targets already. Now, Iran has said like if U.S. or any of the allies help Israel defend from Iranian rocket attacks, that they will strike U.S. bases in the area. Of course, if you're doing joint strikes with Israel on Iranian targets, that's obviously an open declaration of war, and they will strike U.S. targets in the area. Now, will they be successful in said strikes? I don't know. And, Netanyahu said, like, today is Tel Aviv, tomorrow will be, like, New York. That's not going to happen, first of all, because I don't know if Iran can even hit New York. I don't think they can. And they wouldn't have struck Tel Aviv if you didn't actually strike all their nuclear facilities and killed, like, 3 of their leaders. So that's kind of more on the irrelevant side. So this is kind of devolving into a mess right now. And the markets are actually kind of reflecting that. We're down to 107,000 from 108,000, so not too much of a drop. Stock market futures are down about 100-something points, which is not too bad. I think people are looking for more developments right now. Oil has gone up about 1 point, almost like 0.8 points, but it did actually come down like about halfway what it went up yesterday. However, oil will actually continue to get more expensive over the next month as this conflict drags on. And I do not actually think the conflict is going to be over anytime soon. Iran stopped nuclear talks altogether, and missiles are still raining down. So obviously Trump is saying like something much bigger than a ceasefire is in the works. I don't think there's going to be any kind of like long-lasting peace treaty. I think Trump is also signaling regime change. But like I said, usually when the U.S. tries to do a regime change in these countries, it does not work well for them. And of course, like MAGA is like turning over like with this whole anti-war thing, saying that we have to help Israel. Now, that doesn't really surprise me because I do actually think that any administration would actually be pro-Israel. However, there is a chance that we're going to be sending forces in against Iran. Maybe not ground forces, because obviously, like, we have a country between Israel and Iran. You can't just send in rolling tanks. But they will be sending in airplanes and stuff like that. So we're actually going to use forces basically to attack Iran, like Air Force to actually attack Iran right now. And obviously that pulls us into the war. So, yeah, I don't think if Harris was president, like Netanyahu would be quite so belligerent, because I don't think he would have like basically unparalleled support. And I do think the U.S. is pretty much getting fully behind Israel on this. I think Trump actually kind of congratulated Netanyahu on the attacks. And I think like he actually is leaving the G7 summit early in order to prepare to basically align with Israel and strike Iran. Once again, I don't think there's going to be that many U.S. casualties because I don't see a ground war. If there's a ground war, that changed the game already. But like I said, Iran doesn't actually border Israel, so I don't see it. If some splinter cell group, jihadists from Iran, actually attack the United States soil, then this obviously complicates things. And I do think that is possible. I mean, it's hard to predict splinter cells appearing all over the globe. I definitely think if it is confirmed that the U.S. is going to join Israel in a joint strike, I do think there will be strikes, either like by the Iranian government or by like separatist groups that will actually attack U.S. bases. I don't know how successful they will actually be. No, I do not think Iran has nukes. Because of that, I expect it to be quite contained. I think a lot of the fighting will be between Iran and Israel, but I would definitely watch out for like splinter cell groups that could appear in other countries, especially in the countries that are helping Israel repel Iranian missiles. Now, like I said, the market is very, very scattered right now. I think they're just taking a wait and see approach. What's going to happen with the Iranian oil fields? What about the Straits of Hormuz? Is that going to basically screw up logistics for oil? So it is going to be quite volatile, especially in the altcoin sector. And the overall stock market is also going to be very, very volatile. Obviously, like I think this is kind of making people kind of forget that there's still trade deadlines coming up both in August and in September. And I hope people just don't completely forget about them, because if those lapse and we get the tariffs back, things are going to move up a lot. I think this definitely puts like anything that we had in mind, like an altcoin season or any kind of rate cuts, in serious limbo, as Powell is not going to cut under these circumstances. He understands that like the situation in the Middle East could definitely blow up. That would make oil more expensive, which would actually make everything else more expensive. We don't really know if any of the other Middle Eastern countries are going to get involved. I don't think they will on Iran's behalf. Maybe Jordan, but I doubt it. But like the other big powers like Saudi, Iraq, they're not going to get involved. So Iran is kind of basically standing on its own. But yeah, I would definitely be more careful now, especially mindful of the market. I think this definitely ups the chances of having terrorist attacks, both on U.S. bases abroad and even on American soil. So if any of those things actually happen, that will definitely bring the market down, and it will make people scared. And making people scared does not benefit the market, obviously. So I think the crypto market, I think overall I don't know about Bitcoin, but I think the market overall is going to be like a little bit downward for the next couple of months. We'll have to see if we have a revival in Q4. But the worldwide geopolitical situation does not make a great way for bear markets. There obviously is upward pressure on Bitcoin because of Michael Saylor and other people buying. And I think some people will see Bitcoin as kind of a safe haven asset, but some of these altcoins may not do nearly as well in this sideways trading action. Because I don't really see like Bitcoin taking priority in U.S. lawmakers' minds now that this is actually this new thing has actually come upon us with this like foreign war and stuff, and Trump's initiated like an emergency National Security Council meeting. I do think he might try to assume more wartime powers, which would actually result in much greater protests, because despite the fact that we might actually be in a war with Iran, this is not World War II. So martial law and all that stuff is just not really going to fly with the American public, obviously. And I think there's going to be just some, obviously, like domestic unrest as well. But definitely like a lot going on in the international field that could affect oil prices and prices all over the world. And the Middle East has just gotten a lot more volatile. And like I said, rumors are that the U.S. is actually going to get involved itself and have a war with Iran. That would break the no more wars promise. But you know how America is with Israel, especially the Trump administration. They are going to support them until the end, whether the end is good or not. I mean, like Iran obviously is going to lose this war. They can't fight against Israel even, much less the United States. And obviously, it's just not going to be a successful war with them. But the regime basically has no choice because they have to do it to actually save face. Also, like they can't just keep on like letting people delay their nuclear program without any kind of counterattack. So they have to make it known that if you attack us, obviously we're going to strike back. So yeah, I think the aerial war is going to escalate. I do think the U.S. will actually send in planes at some time along the line. I think the damage to Israel has been more than has been expected, and I expect the markets to be incredibly volatile going forward with this. And like any kind of like pendulum that swings the news one way or not could affect the markets a whole lot. Obviously, war stocks are going to be really good, but other than that, I don't really see anything else really faring all that well. I expect inflation to rise because of this. I expect rate cuts to be. I expect less chance of rate cuts, and overall, I'm not too optimistic about how things are going to go in Q3. So I'm really looking to Q4. I hope this all can be solved. I hope they also make time to agree to new trade deals, because they don't, that's going to suck. But overall, besides, like, I might buy some Bitcoin on DCA, but I don't really know if I would buy anything else right now. So yeah, I think we're going to trade sideways for a couple of months, but there is a chance for a severe dip if something completely implodes diplomatically in the Middle East. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.